I watch Jeb Bush. He's a joke on immigration.
It's an act of love.
An act of love. It's an act of love when they come in.
I don't think he represents the Republican Party. His views are way out of the mainstream of what Republicans think.
Who is more conservative, Jeb Bush or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Jeb Bush. Who thinks Jeb Bush? Who thinks Donald Trump? Seriously?
The fight for the soul of the Republican Party is coming to a head.
This election is about the essence of America.
And the Democrats now have a nail-biter of their own.
Sanders!
We'll have forecast models for Iowa and exclusive poll numbers here in Florida. We'll bring in political ad man Adam Goodman, Pollster Matt Towery, and Fox Chief Washington Correspondent James Rosen to break it down. And Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Charlie LeDuff will help us break down the spin.
Spinning and spinning. Everybody talking, and nobody got anything to say.
This is Money, Power, and Politics. Hello, I'm Craig Patrick. We're just a few days away from the Iowa caucus. Trump and Cruz are nearly tied in Iowa, and Trump is dominating New Hampshire and national polls. So we start with a closer look at the issue that caught establishment Republicans by surprise and the man they once dismissed as an entertainer.
Green Acres is the place to be.
At first, Republican leaders did not know what to make of Donald Trump.
Trump.
Trump took off on the issue of illegal immigration, and that's been a hot button in the race ever since. Trump changed the whole direction of the debate, and in the process may have single-handedly tripped up Jeb Bush.
Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony.
Coming in as an illegal is an act of love. Remember that line?
Republican leaders had tinkered with immigration reform for years, got burned by their own base every time because their plans provided some form of amnesty.
Essentially grant amnesty to a lot of illegals.
This bill is the amnesty dream.
Not to reward bad behavior with amnesty.
So they stopped using the word amnesty and called it earned citizenship. They said that meant they would grant them the right to live here only after paying a price for having been here legally. But the base reminded them that's exactly what amnesty meant.
Amnesty means that you've got to pay, a price for having been here illegally, and this bill does that.
So the new plans were pretty similar to the old plans. And in the last presidential race, the party tied itself in knots trying to square it.
Those 12 million who've come here illegally should be given the opportunity to sign up to stay here.
They should be given no special pathway to citizenship or permanent residency.
Should be able to sign up for permanent residency.
They should not be allowed to stay in this country.
So Republicans found a way to lose 71% of the Latino vote and lose the trust of the conservative base that's been fuming about this since 1986.
I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
Reagan signed off on amnesty for 3 million illegal immigrants, and conservatives say it was one of his biggest mistakes because he did not secure the border, and we had a flood of illegal immigrants. Then President George W. Bush took another run at amnesty. Then McCain, Rubio, and the Gang of Eight tried comprehensive reform. The party did not realize how much that turned off its base till Trump tuned in.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
At first, Jeb Bush and other establishment Republicans dismissed him as an angry old man.
Just angry all the time.
Then Trump made them remember how angry their base is with them, and it turned the race to sealing the border.
Border security.
Border security is critical.
I would secure the border.
Take care of this border.
And I will say the politics of it would be very, very different if a bunch of lawyers or bankers were crossing the Rio Grande.
We will build a wall. It will be a great wall. It will do what it's supposed to do. Keep illegal immigrants out.
Meanwhile, we still have a debate within the GOP over how to deal with people who have already come here illegally, particularly those who were brought here as young children. Bush, Rubio, and Kasich support plans that would allow them to stay in some form at some point if they play by the rules. And here is one of the reasons why.
Yo no puedo salir de la casa.
Socorro Maldonado just said she can't leave the house. She's been hiding here in Tampa for the past 14 years, and her daughter Leslie grew up not knowing why.
I would always ask my mom, what's a Social Security? They're like, oh, something you don't have.
They came from Mexico when Leslie was 4 years old. to escape the gangs known for killing civilians and snatching kids.
Tenía mucho miedo de que me quitaran un hijo. No sé.
Socorro feared they would take her children, so she took them across the border illegally and raised them in Florida. Leslie's father works in the shadows doing construction, and her mom and aunt have been disconnected by language and fear.
They're too scared to get a job.
Leslie always assumed she was American and that her parents were safe.
Like, wait, so my parents can be taken away from me at any point. I could be taken away.
She discovered the secret around 5 years ago when she told her parents she wanted to go to college.
I cried. I broke down. It broke me in all kinds of ways.
Well, candidates like Trump say allowing some to stay would just encourage others to come. And so goes this debate, which brings us back to perspective from Charlie LeDuff.
Guess who I ran into the other day at the Republican debates on my way to the toilet? It's my old pal, Donald J. Trump. I had an idea about that gigantic immigration wall he's going to get the Mexicans to pay for.
Can we get the Mexicans to build a wall on their side? Yeah, well, they'll build it.
Awesome! Think about it. Not only will the Mexicans pay for the wall, they'll build it on their land. Then all the guys in front of the Home Depot in Los Angeles will run home to build it. And only when they're done building it will they realize they've sealed themselves in.
Did you hear what he said?
It'll be great.
And Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
Jose said, if you want to build a 2,000-mile wall, hire him. He knows how to do concrete.
I know. That's probably a dumb idea. But no dumber than some of the other ideas I'm hearing from serious presidential candidates. Chris Christie wants to put barcodes on immigrants.
We've got to be able to track people who have visas in this country so they don't overstay their visas. And I said Federal Express can do it.
Thing is, people have legs. Packages don't. On the other side of things, mass amnesty probably won't work either.
But it is
Reagan granted it to 3 million people back in the 80s. And since then, another 12 million have come. Here's one such guy mopping the Gipper's grave at the Reagan Presidential Library near L.A. More than 1 million illegal immigrants live in Los Angeles County alone. Many have children, and most have been here for more than a decade. Rounding them up will probably cause a whole bunch of unforeseen problems, the police and the old 60s radicals tell me.
Trump and all those cats, man, they're fearful. Because you know what? We don't die, we multiply.
Besides, where would we hold 11 million people? Remember, we couldn't find enough beds for those kids coming over the border last summer?
But just from a pure, practical standpoint, not going to happen, can't be done.
Why not begin by focusing on the 700,000 illegal immigrants who are convicted felons, gangbangers, or repeat border jumpers? Unwanted and uninvited creeps who have served time only to be released into the streets by local American authorities. Turns out, 2/3 of local jurisdictions, so-called sanctuary cities, ignore federal immigration requests to notify them when an illegal felon is going to be released. Why not pass a federal law requiring them to report? Almost everyone we talk to seems to agree with that.
No liking criminals in the United States, no good.
We want those people off the streets.
You want them out?
Yeah.
You got to deal with them every day.
Right.
So that would be a place to start?
That would be a place to start.
And why not pass a federal law requiring mandatory prison time for illegal felons who re-enter the United States after they've been deported? It might cost money, but it's a lot cheaper than building a 2,000-mile wall, and it would have saved the life of the woman in San Francisco. The feds promised the same thing to this man 7 years ago after an illegal alien gangbanger was released from the LA County jail only to murder his teenage son.
He shouldn't have been here. He should never got his fingerprints. They had his fingerprints. Matter of fact, the DA said that he was known for maybe 3 more murders they couldn't prove. He was involved in 3 more murders, plus my son. The Republicans sold me out. Democrats sold me out. Black politicians sold me out. I'm just a pissed off dad.
Mr. Trump, why do you think there's an unwillingness to get the illegal criminal aliens out?
Well, nobody can understand it, but it'll take place.
Is that your first priority? Would that be your first one?
Spinning and spinning around. We're spinning and spinning around. Everybody talking, and nobody's got anything to say. Ask a question, they got a solution. But they don't know how to deliver it. Just gonna wall it off. But where's the money? We're gonna round them up and throw them out. But we got no place to keep them.
Charlie, I want to go back to a question you asked Donald Trump some 6 months ago. What's the value of a 30-foot wall if someone can make a 32-foot ladder? Some 6 months later, now, how does Trump address that?
What's Trump say now about the wall?
Yes. Has he changed?
Same thing he's been.
Yeah.
No. In fact, it's a stump point, and it gets a lot of cheers. But I'm telling you, I understand how people are feeling about the border. A 30-foot wall. A 30-foot wall, 2,000 miles. I was sitting there at the press conference. I calculated the cement. That would be $80 billion. That's not even rebar. That's not even labor. That's just the cement. Then you tell me, you try eminent domaining 2,000 miles of Western ranchers' property. How you think that's going to work? Is it going to work? Probably not. And I'll say it again. Home Depot makes a 32-foot ladder made in China, sold here in the United States.
And Donald Trump won't explain how he plans to work around that?
No. I asked him at the debates in Los Angeles, I said, why don't we get the Mexicans to build it on their side? He says, yeah, it's a great idea, we're going to do that. And I said, yeah, you know what will happen then? All the illegal immigrants at Home Depot will run home to build it. And then when they build it, only then will they realize they've sealed themselves in.
Charlie, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you got it.
Coming up, we have projection models in the race for Iowa and our numbers here in Florida with strategist Adam Goodman and our pollster Matt Towery. Check out the 538 forecast heading into this week. It gives Ted Cruz a 51% chance of winning the Iowa caucus. The projection models show a range of outcomes here, sort of like the spaghetti models we see in hurricane season. But when you merge them together, it suggests Cruz could win with around 26%, followed by Trump at 21% and Rubio at 15%. But Trump is not lowering expectations.
Because I want to win Iowa. Everyone says, don't say that. Don't say you're going to win. Just say you're going to do well. That's the closest. But I can't do that.
But Cruz has only been leading in Iowa. Trump continues to dominate in other states, including Florida. Check out our Fox 13 poll numbers. Trump leads in Florida with 31%. Cruz is second at 19%, followed by Bush and Rubio at 13% and 12%. That's another poor showing for those two in their own home state this week. So let's bring in our pollster, Matt Towery, to explain what's going on here. So, Matt, Rubio is down slightly since your last poll in December. Do you think that's just noise within the margin of error, or is he slipping?
Yeah, I do, Craig. I think that you have both. Bush has been jumping up and down a little bit. He gained a little speed in our South Carolina poll for the Augusta Chronicle, where he was in third place. I don't think that their movement one way or another means too much right now, except for one thing, and that is if you took Rubio and Bush together in Florida, if one of them were to take all those numbers, they would be a very competitive candidate, something we need to keep our eye on as we get towards March.
Florida Republicans know Rubio and Bush very well, and both are very well liked in the state. So why then are they down nearly 20 points here in Florida?
Primarily, I think, from the debates. I mean, if you look at the figures, the response that we have on this latest poll, again, Donald Trump won the debate, and Ted Cruz is not too far behind him as well. So they're taking up all the airspace, they're eating up all the time, and they're getting all the attention on the national level. As the nation goes right now, Trump, Cruz, so goes Florida.
And we watch polls, of course, at this point for movement. And what's striking in our poll is how little movement there is from December. What do you make of that?
It's interesting because the polling that we're doing is showing Cruz adding to his numbers. Trump's holding where he is. Right now, you're going to see a lot of these candidates who are at the lower levels, I think, begin to drop off. And many of these, they will not be candidates actively by the time we get to the Florida primary.
Well, Matt Towery, thank you as always.
Thank you, Craig.
This election is about the essence of America.
Marco Rubio's pouring millions into Iowa TV ads. He's in third place in an average of Iowa polls, and he knows a top 3 showing will keep him going, and a surprise first or second place finish will give him a big shot of momentum. So he's trying to connect with evangelical voters who have a lot of clout in Iowa.
Our goal is eternity, the ability to live alongside our Creator for all time.
Meanwhile, Jeb Bush has been bearing down on New Hampshire, an early state that's been known to surprise us. 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton was sinking until New Hampshire bailed her out, and it boosted Bill Clinton in 1992.
New Hampshire tonight has made Bill Clinton the comeback kid.
So now Jeb Bush is hoping for a New Hampshire surprise of his own, if not winning, at least scoring enough to keep him going. And he's trying to pull it off by going after Donald Trump.
One candidate tough enough to take on the bully.
Donald, you're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency.
But polls and focus groups show Bush still has a long way to go.
Who is more conservative, Jeb Bush or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Jeb Bush. Who thinks Jeb Bush? Who thinks Donald Trump? Seriously?
All right, let's bring in Republican strategist Adam Goodman. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Craig.
Let's start with Marco Rubio. He is spending a lot of money, some 7,000 ads in Iowa just this month. Is that enough to move the needle?
It could be. What it really comes down to, Craig, is enthusiasm. Can you get people in the cold of night to come out for a couple hours and stand in line for a caucus? What Marco is trying to do with his ads is generate enough enthusiasm, I think, to place third behind Cruz and Trump, who are kind of duking it out at the top. So he can come into New Hampshire more, as you might say, the establishment alternative.
And then we have Jeb Bush and the pro-Bush PAC, having spent around 40, if not more than $40 million as an ad maker. You're seeing diminishing returns, if not a negative return up to this point on that investment. What do you make of that?
This is an election which is really coming down to who has got the right message and who can bring that message. And, you know, Jeb, I think, has had a challenge trying to get footing here. His Maginot Line is not going to be in Iowa, though, Craig. It's probably going to be in New Hampshire, where you have a scrum of 4 or 5 candidates fighting it out behind Trump for, you might say, second place honors, which is really going to be a first place prize moving forward to Nevada and South Carolina.
And then what happens, do you think, if Trump wins Iowa and then wins New Hampshire?
If he carries both of those states, I think you have to start thinking he could run the table. Unbelievable as it may have seemed 2 months ago, because I think the enthusiasm that will come out of those two campaigns, if he is on top in both, will prove the one thing we don't know yet, Craig, whether or not what the Trump phenomenon has created in terms of attention actually translates into votes.
I'm going to put you on the spot now. Give us your prediction in both races, Republican and Democrat, for both Iowa and New Hampshire.
I think Ted Cruz should win Iowa. It's made to order for him as an organization state. His ideology fits it. I think he wins, and wins narrowly over Trump, and I think Donald Trump will be everything everyone can handle coming into New Hampshire.
Adam Goodman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, ISIS is still expanding its reach around the world, and we'll show you what we're doing about it. Fox News Chief Washington Correspondent James Rosen joins the conversation. Plus, with our state lawmakers at work, we have a new edition of 60 Days of Stupid. A UN report claims ISIS has killed more than 18,000 people in Iraq and is holding more than 3,000 slaves, mostly women and children. This follows reports of mass slaughter in Syria and deadly attacks in Jakarta, Indonesia. Well, please welcome Fox News Chief Washington Correspondent James Rosen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Craig.
What is the ISIS game plan beyond Iraq and Syria, and what are we doing about it?
You really have to study a bit of the Quran in order to understand ISIS's demented reading of it and their plans going forward. What ISIS wants, above all, is to draw the West, what they call the infidels, into a series of cataclysmic clashes that are supposed to take place first at Dabiq and then in Rome. And they expect that they would be wiped out at Dabiq and then that they would have their own final triumph at Rome.
We've investigated evidence of doctored intel here at CENTCOM in Tampa for months. I'm curious, how is this playing right now in Washington?
Well, I think it's a subject of great concern and interest here. We know that the Pentagon Inspector General is investigating claims by up to 50 analysts who do work in and around CENTCOM that their intelligence reporting on ISIS was routinely sanitized as it made its way up the chain of command. There is also a separate set of congressional investigations going on. There are whistleblowers who have come forward. You have fairly credible allegations. And as I say, the Pentagon and the Congress are both looking into it, Craig.
James Rosen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up, the Florida legislature brings us a new chapter in 60 Days of Stupid.
It's time now for 60 Days of Stupid.
You may start seeing more video of headless couples holding hands on TV because state lawmakers have turned their sights to living in sin.
Oh, gosh.
In 1868, Florida banned unmarried couples from shacking up, and lawmakers never lifted the ban.
Everybody's doing it anyway.
So with a ton of pressing unfinished business, state lawmakers decided to take time out for this.
Morals, natural law, still stand today.
A plan to lift that outdated ban is now moving through the legislature. If passed, it could stop Florida from enforcing a ban that it does not enforce, giving unmarried couples a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, I think Jay-Z said it best, and I'm a quote for you. I know my rights, so you're going to need a warrant for that.
Next week, we're traveling to Iowa, and we'll bring you next week's show On the Road. Thank you for watching Money, Power, and Politics.